the state, and I'm very proud to say is doing very well, and we want to keep it that way. Our concern is the broad nature of the executive orders. March in Connecticut does not look anywhere near the same as September in Connecticut looks. And because of that, the way we govern has to look different. Right now, we believe that there's not the same need for the same broad executive orders that we have had for these months. We believe we need to sit down with the governor, his office, and the legislature on both sides and have a comprehensive conversation as to how we should move forward. The broad nature of these executive orders has included public health, the economy. It has put a limit on people's right to sue. It has put a limit on contractual obligations between landlords and tenants. And you know the list. You see them every day.
The point we want to make is that this was an extraordinary act of the governor essentially taking over legislative power and being given that right to be able to modify statutes and regulations. Now that we have already seen that the legislature can work on a certain level, we have the ability to come in and provide our voices to this process.
We need to move forward in a way that we got elected by our constituents, the state of Connecticut, to do. They elected state representatives, state senators, and the governor. They elected us all to work together. That was not possible for the past few months. It is possible now.
One of the concerns right now is that the governor is requesting that this executive order continue all the way through into February. We have a new legislature, we have an election coming up in November, and it is extraordinary that the governor is essentially seeking to bind a legislature that hasn't even yet been elected to provide their voice, to be unable to provide their voice. And his orders should not be extending into the next legislative session. And so we are calling on our Democrat colleagues to hold that committee meeting, to have this debate of should the governor have complete control under the civil preparedness statutes and the public health statutes to do whatever he wants without the ability for legislative input. We all take the oath very seriously, and we think it is time that the legislature step up and provide a voice. And that voice needs to begin by the Committee of 10 convening to debate whether or not these executive orders should continue.
The problem is there is no collaborative conversation about what's going on. Representative Candelora mentioned this Committee of 10, which is comprised of the leaders of the legislature, the 2 ranking members of public health, and the 2 chairmen of public health. That is a group that is supposed to be meeting, all right? But the way the statute is written, which I believe we need to change that statute going forward, probably in special session if we can, that says if you do not meet within 72 hours of when the governor asks for that extension of the executive order, then it automatically becomes valid. It automatically continues. I mean, think about that for a second. We argued this point about union contracts for years, that this will become, it will go into place if the legislature doesn't meet within 30 days. In the 20 years I was here, my first 20 years, we didn't vote on one union contract, they just never met. I mean, speaking the opposite, you know, having to prove a negative is not the way people out there want their democracy to work. If they believe this should be extended, then they should be able to sit down and defend that position. We should be able to, on the record, explain why we don't think it should be defended. This whole proving a negative, and if you don't meet, then nothing happens, is ridiculous.
Is that every time the governor is criticized for the orders that come out, I continue to see quotes that we collaborated with the legislature. And I think a point needs to be made here today. There has been zero collaboration since March. We've been told things 10 minutes before the press is alerted to issues. That's a problem. And if they believe that collaboration should occur, don't just say it, do it.
We realize we are still in a public health emergency. We realize that. We are doing great in this state, and I'm proud of that. As I said, I hope that continues. But unfortunately, these executive orders are too broad. They cover health issues, they cover economic issues, they cover election issues. And so by extending them in this broad fashion, we are allowing the governor to make decisions unilaterally.
There are provisions that we could give authority to the Commissioner of Public Health to address public health issues. And that would give her broader discretion to deal with the nursing homes and deal with the hospitals, direct public health concerns. But when we start seeing right now, potentially, this governor could extend the election into December if he so chooses. The power that he is taking right now is extraordinary and well beyond the scope of the public health pandemic.
As far as I know, as of 11:50 today, we're now on day 2 almost of the 72-hour period. They weren't even interested in having a meeting, right? So I don't think their willingness to do anything else and change this is very great. I mean, we point blank asked them this during the meeting. We would like to meet in the next 72 hours so everybody can put their positions on the table. If I believe in something, I'm going to defend it, right? If they believe in this, they should defend it. They should put it on the record. They should let us take our position and defend our position so the public knows about it. I mean, when you're not even willing to have a meeting and call a meeting to talk about it, I think they're just perfectly happy with their governor ruling for the next couple months so they don't have to take the blame for anything.
In the beginning, when we had the Reopen Connecticut committee, there were Zoom meetings once a week. I think there might have been 4 that we were involved in. But when it came to decision making with executive orders, most of those orders have been issued without any prior discussion with us. And I will say that back to the point of we are the boots on the ground, and so we hear from constituencies. A collaborative process would be much more helpful because I believe that the way things are issued, we could avoid some of the confusions. The latest mask order that was signed by the Lieutenant Governor that was issued created a lot of confusion for businesses and the health departments in the way they were administered. I happen to operate a business and sort of fell into that conversation of how the hell we enforce it. And part of it is coming out because there is no public hearing process or a collaborative process. And so the governor's office has time and again set this tone that it's there, it's collaborative, and he can say that. We are standing here to say that's not happening. And if we are going to move forward with another 5 months of this type of give and take, we need to get into the room.
And I think that he's very happy and comfortable governing and running this state by fiat. Okay, I think that's what's going on here. I think going into COVID, he had a very low approval rating. He had a lot of difficulty with some of the things he put forth. That's part of the deal when we get elected. I understand that. But now he's been moving along with these very broad executive orders, and I think he's comfortable with it. And that's great. I'm glad he's comfortable with it, but we're not. The people of the state of Connecticut are not comfortable with it. They elected everybody to do their job together. And because of health concerns, that wasn't possible because we couldn't come into this building for several months. And I agreed with that at the time, but I don't anymore because Connecticut in March is not the Connecticut of September, and it can't be treated the same way.
And Jody, if this is 2021, the beginning of an election, the beginning of a session, do we really think the Democrats would sit back silently and continue to cede their power over to the governor? So when we talk about who is playing politics, I would suggest that the Democrat Party right now is trying to play it safe for election time. And now is not the time to play it safe. We have an obligation to our constituency to make the tough decisions, and they don't want to.
And as I said, Jody, I said earlier, I really do believe that the majority party in this building is actually happier with the governor operating under executive order because we're 2 minutes from an election, and they do not have to be on the hook for any decisions he makes. They can easily say, yes, I agree with that one. They can easily say, no, I don't agree, bad governor. But they are not on the hook for it. And they are comfortable with that, and it's the easy way out. And I am sorry, easy and lazy is not what the state of Connecticut wants. Connecticut wants fighters and people who are doing what they elected us to do.